The story broke quietly at first, but within hours it was everywhere. A single interview clip, a handful of quotes circulating online, and a headline that immediately grabbed attention. Meghan Markle's brother says he is finally telling his side of the story, and according to him, what really happened behind the scenes is far worse than the public has ever been led to believe. For years, the rift within the Markle family has been treated as an uncomfortable footnote to a much larger royal saga. Now, those old tensions are back in the spotlight, raising new questions about truth, timing, and motive. If you found this report insightful, take a moment to reflect on how celebrity culture shapes health trends and why responsible conversation matters. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for more in-depth coverage that goes beyond the headlines and keeps you informed as these stories continue to unfold. Share this video, leave your thoughts in the comments section. According to the article, Meghan's brother claims that the public version of events, the one most people are familiar with, leaves out crucial context. He suggests that long before royal titles, global interviews, and international controversy, there were unresolved family conflicts that were never addressed, only buried. In his telling, those early fractures shaped everything that came later. He argues that what the world saw unfold on television was not sudden or unexpected, but the final chapter of a pattern that began years earlier. Speaking to reporters, he describes a family dynamic that he says was already strained well before Meghan entered the public eye. He claims there were disagreements over loyalty, communication, and personal boundaries, disagreements that slowly hardened into resentment. While Meghan has often spoken publicly about feeling misunderstood and unsupported, her brother insists that the story is more complicated, and that key details have been omitted whenever the family's past is discussed. The article notes that he does not deny that Meghan faced pressure or criticism. Instead, he argues that those pressures existed on both sides. He claims there were repeated attempts by family members to reach out privately, attempts he says went unanswered. Over time, he alleges, silence replaced dialogue, and that silence eventually turned into public distance that could no longer be ignored. One of the most striking claims in the article is his assertion that the family breakdown was not caused by fame alone. He says the narrative that everything changed overnight after Meghan became a public figure is misleading. According to him, the separation had already begun, and fame merely amplified issues that were already there. In his words, the spotlight did not create the problems, it exposed them. He also addresses accusations that family members sought attention or financial gain by speaking to the media. The article reports that he strongly rejects this idea, saying that his decision to speak now is motivated by frustration rather than profit. He claims that watching the same version of events repeated over and over, without what he believes to be important corrections, pushed him to finally respond publicly. At the same time, the article makes clear that his account is deeply contested. Supporters of Meghan point out that family disputes are rarely one-sided, and that estranged relatives often have their own grievances and perspectives. They argue that personal pain does not automatically translate into objective truth, especially when shared through headlines and interviews rather than private conversations. The timing of his statements has also raised questions. Critics note that renewed public interest in Meghan and her role in ongoing media discussions may have created an opportunity to revive old claims. They suggest that speaking out during moments of heightened attention risks blurring the line between clarification and provocation. His brother, however, maintains that there is no strategic timing, only a sense that the moment has come when he can no longer stay silent. The article also revisits earlier incidents that contributed to the family rift, including disagreements over privacy and public statements made before Meghan's wedding. These moments, once dismissed as minor or awkward, are now being reframed by her brother as significant turning points. He claims they signaled a shift in how family relationships would be managed going forward, with increasing distance and formality replacing familiarity. From Meghan's perspective, as reflected in past interviews and public comments, her experience has been one of setting boundaries. She has spoken about the emotional toll of navigating intense public scrutiny while feeling unsupported by those closest to her. To her supporters, the decision to step back from certain relationships is seen as an act of self-preservation rather than rejection. What makes this latest development particularly impactful is not just the content of the claims, but the emotional weight behind them. The article emphasizes that this is not a casual disagreement playing out online. It is a deeply personal conflict involving siblings, shared history, and years of unresolved tension. Each new statement reopens wounds that never fully healed. Media analysts quoted in the article warn that stories like this often take on a life of their own. Once family disputes enter the public arena, nuance is frequently lost. Headlines simplify, social media amplifies, and audiences are encouraged to choose sides. In that environment, truth can become secondary to impact. There is also the broader question of why these stories continue to resonate so strongly. Part of the answer lies in Meghan's unique position as both a public figure and a symbol in wider cultural debates. For some, stories about her family feed into larger narratives about authenticity, identity, and belonging. For others, they are simply compelling human drama, familiar in its themes even if extraordinary in its scale. So far, there has been no direct response from Meghan to her brother's latest comments. In the past, she has generally avoided addressing specific family accusations, choosing instead to speak in broader terms about her experiences. Whether that approach will change remains to be seen. For now, the contrast between silence on one side and renewed claims on the other continues to fuel speculation. The article concludes by suggesting that this may not be the final word. Once family members begin speaking publicly, it is rare for the conversation to stop on its own. Each new interview creates pressure for a response, and each response invites further scrutiny. The cycle can be difficult to break, especially when public interest remains high. What is clear is that beneath the headlines and the dramatic language lies a story that is painfully human. Families fall apart. People remember the same events differently. Hurt lingers long after the original argument is forgotten. When those dynamics unfold in private, they are painful enough. When they unfold in public, they become something else entirely. As viewers and readers, we are left to decide how we engage with stories like this. Do we treat them as entertainment, or do we pause to consider the real people involved and the long-term consequences of turning personal conflict into public spectacle? The answers to those questions shape not only how these stories are told, but why they continue to be told at all.